Welcome back to Stocklabs for the final weekly recap of 2021. We just finished up the week on New Year's Eve. Sort of a lackluster week, but overall pretty uneventful, as is typical of sort of these um, holiday periods. We're sort of this week between Christmas and New Year's. There's not going to be a whole lot of action because everyone's basically checked out for the year. So, okay, our major ETFs did decent. Like I said, it looks pretty, um, fairly benign. So S&P was up 94 bips. The Dow led up 115 bips. Q's lagged, basically a flat week for them, and same thing for Russell, which has been trading very choppy since basically November. It's been tough for this group to get any traction, and sort of went out soft for the end of 2021, which looked a lot like most of the year for it. And then our mega caps or paracaps, whatever you want to call them, the market leaders. Pretty soft week for them overall too. So Amazon was kind of a big loser, down 2.6%. Netflix down 2%, but Netflix still sort of holding that 600 area. Google down 1.33%. The only ones that were up was Apple, up 0.7, Microsoft up 0.5%, Facebook up 40 bips. But Facebook's kind of struggled for the better part of the second half of the year, I'm going to say. What should I? Yeah, 338. So it's kind of been in this three I don't know, 320 to 25 up to maybe 350 range for a while off the top of my head, without looking at the chart. I could look at the chart though. So, oh, wait. Okay, I'll just go to it. Yeah, so, okay. So 380 was the high. That was in September. Let me just go to 1 year. Yeah, so since it came off this high, it's kind of struggled in this 350 to 300 range. Okay, so yeah, and then ended this week sort of on its lows. But anyway, that's just them. Okay, we'll go to by market cap overall. Okay, so 1 to 5 billion flat, and 5 to 10 billion up 1%, pretty strong. 10 to 50 billion up 1%, and 50 to 100 billion up 1%. So a lot of the market was up about 1%. Okay, and TerraCap's up 0.7. Okay, so actually pretty decent breadth across the market caps. Anything over 5 billion, it was pretty. I mean, not strong, but it was an up week for a lot of sectors of the market. And if we go to the industries page, I mean, yeah, you can see all of these are sort of like fractionally up, except healthcare, obviously, which we've been over in many of these recaps, which just gets hosed. I kind of think that to start 2022, this might be a place that you look for a pretty big rotation back into. Now that it's just sort of how these things work. The year turns over, and people have to sort of reallocate into um, sectors that were basically left for dead the year before. And healthcare fits that bill. Um, as we've been following along with it here. So utilities were the outperformer this week, up 2.2%. Industrials up 2%. Okay, consumer up 1.5, 1.7, not bad. Tech actually had a down week, which, well, Nasdaq was flat, so that's not surprising that the median would be down 0.5%. But okay, and then as for our subsectors, so not a single one was up 5%. So yes, it was sort of a up week with some half decent breadth, but it wasn't very strong. The magnitude of the up move was not really that impressive. Okay. And as for down sectors, we did have quite a handful that were down, getting hit pretty hard. So we down 8%. I mean, this trade had really fell apart, throughout the year more and more. Same thing with EVs, down to 8%. I mean, these are sort of like they fall under the meme-ish category. So there's a lot of air coming out of them so far. Gene editing has appeared on here a bunch of times. I mean, it kind of goes to the healthcare down 6 2/3%. Drugs, biotech following along. Yeah, the nuclear trade that has sort of eased off a lot in the last quarter. And what else? Silver getting hit. That's pretty customary though. Yeah, not too. These are smaller moves. SAS down 2%. SAS has kind of had a tough time finding its footing as far as on a sector-wide basis. There's certain individual ones doing well, but they're not just buying all of them anymore. You got to be a little more selective within the sector. So something to keep in mind. All right, I'll go back to Screener, and we're going to try and find intelligence. So it's a start 2022 next week. Now, I don't know. I think it's a shortened week. I don't know if the market's closed on Monday. Regardless, if it is or it isn't, we'll find it. I'll look it up later. But okay, so next week, Gush, Tech. What is this? Oh, here, Sky U. That's like a new. I don't think that ETF has ever appeared on here. Cloud computing. So that's sort of like some of those SaaS stocks appear in these ETFs too. XOP, so oil again. And okay, PTF is Momentum Tech, which SaaS falls in that category. And then XES is oil services. So, I mean, could be a pretty broad-based rally to start the year. I mean, you have all this tech stuff run, you have all this oil stuff run. That's sort of either end of the barbell, if you want to call it that, for market sectors between the duration trade and the deflation trade. So if they're both going to be going up, then kind of everything in between will be moving up as well. All right, and on the flip side, for inverse, okay, so short oil and gas, short FANG, short energy, and what is this? Chinese internet. Okay, so these are bear ETFs, so that means the sector is bullish. So oil and gas bullish, energy, oil and gas energy bullish, which, sort of confirms the other screen because the bull ETFs are rated bull, the bear ETFs are rated bear. So the sector overall is bullish. And then FANG D is bearish, which would be bullish FANG, which is really bullish for the entire market, because those market cap stocks will just drag the index up, if they're moving up as well. And then Chinese internet is rated bear. So I know they bounced a little bit in the last tail end of this week, but I think if they resume this sort of downtrend here, in accordance with this, you're probably looking at an even bigger leg down for Chinese internet. So, I mean, who even knows what's going on in China? I mean, they just, you know, the stocks become hot and they become ice cold, seemingly on a whim. I mean, but, it is what it is. You buy Chinese stocks, I mean, you're sort of asking for whatever you get. Anyway, yeah, we finished up the year. I mean, market did okay overall. I mean, it did pretty well, but a lot of it wasn't as broad based as probably a lot of people would be hoping for. Um, Maybe I'll do a separate recap for the entire year. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Um, anyway, for the start of 2022, so seasonality, January is generally pretty good. Here we go. It's up 57% of the time for almost 0.75%. So it's a decent month. I mean, there have been some Januaries that were a little softer, and people have that adage. What is it? So goes January, so goes the year, or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Don't really put a whole lot into that, but I think January could be okay, just because the new year turned over, and people are going to be a little more active. Everyone's P&Ls reset to zero, so there's no one trying to protect any year-to-date gains or anything like that. You're going to see people allocating money, as they see fit for what they think 2022 is going to look like. Which, I'm a little 2022. I think it'll be an average year for the market. I don't think it's going to be crazy. I mean, we had a few big years here, the last few. So I think you're looking at more like, I don't know. You have a couple corrections this year, probably at some point. Um, we'll just have to see the timing of those um, when they materialize. But I think you are going to get a couple. It's not going to be as sort of. It's not going to be as much of a grind as a lot of parts of this year went, where you sort of had a lot of the market falling apart, but the indices would just sort of trudge forward or not do too much. I think you're going to get more market wide, at least index level volatility for this year. I mean, just an average amount, not anything crazy, but you know what I'm saying. There wasn't as much this year as a lot of people probably would have expected. And anyway, I think that's it. So, yeah, it was a decent week. Mainly just prepping for 2022. I think it'll start off pretty well, and yeah, it's good talking to you guys, doing these recaps, and we'll be back next week doing them again for 2022. So have a happy new year, and talk to you next year.